This is massive for the Vancouver Canucks. Could we see Andre Kuzmenko traded very soon? As well as the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Washington Capitals are very interested in UFA Ethan Bear. We'll break all this down for you coming up on this episode of Hattrick HQ. But before we get into that, just want to say that 83.9% of you guys watching this aren't subscribed. So if you're looking for a home to daily NHL, daily Leafs content, look no further. Go down below, hit that subscribe button, become part of the community here, because we'll be here all season long, keeping you up to date on what's happening around the league. But with that said, let's get right into the first topic of the video today, and that is Ethan Bear returning. And as we take a look here, they said the Canucks have been told that they are out on UFA Ethan Bear, and Elliot Friedman says that all eyes are on Washington. We will see. But he also said here on his 32 Thoughts podcast that it could be a possibility for Toronto, who are now down a defenseman with John Klingberg gone on LTIR. And Mark, I know we discussed about Ethan Bears going to Toronto. I do think he'd be a great fit in Washington as well, but I really do think bringing Ethan Bear to play maybe on that third pairing in Toronto would be a great fit.
Yeah, the big thing is you've seen the Canucks are out on him. I know a lot of people were talking that it really came down to Sidorov or Bear, and they did go with Sidorov. I think this was the best option. He's a top four defenseman. He fits perfectly into this team, and overall, you take this guy instead of bringing in Bear, wait until he's healthy till January and just kind of playing down him in. But when you do look at it from the Toronto and Washington aspect, it's kind of a similar situation where both teams could use another right-handed defenseman. I think every team in the league does want a right-handed defenseman. But the big difference is the Capitals might be able to give him more of a opportunity. This could be maybe a 1 or 2 year deal where they want to play him into the top four or a guaranteed spot into the sixth defenseman. But with Toronto, you kind of get in a weird situation where right now they are down a defenseman. Klingberg's out for the year. Liljegren is out as well. So Bear could slot in maybe on that third pairing where Timmins would slide up. But the big thing is once Liljegren returns, and I could see Toronto being more of a bigger, they want a bigger fish to bring in. So this could be maybe a Chris Tanev. So if they did say bring in Chris Tanev, that slides Brody down a bit. That slides Liljegren down to the third pairing. Then you still have Legason, Benoit, Timmins. There's so many guys to get into this that maybe Bear and his camp might not want to play in Toronto in the sense where they're not guaranteeing him to get into this team and getting a full season of a run. But with the Capitals struggling, I could see this being a huge situation where they bring Barron, get him get him a lot of reps, get him into maybe that third pairing, second pairing, and maybe this could be a multi-year deal. Maybe they sign him for a 2 year deal, which does help since he is coming off of surgery. And this could be a long-term look for the Capitals in general.
Yeah, I definitely do think that the better fit for him is in Washington. I think he has a lot more opportunity there. I really do think, like, when Washington lost Orlov and guys like this over the offseason, they really needed to bring in a couple defense. And I really do think that Ethan Bear is a great right-hand shot defenseman that could come in, step up, and play great on the back end of Washington. He's going to get a little bit more. He's going to get more minutes with Washington when he will with the Leafs. And like you said, with the Leafs having some guys out with injury that will be coming back later on down the line. I mean, it's not really a good fit for him in that sense that he might get pushed out of the lineup eventually when those guys come back. And he'd be better off in Washington where he could, show his skill, show what he's worked towards to get back in the NHL and really secure himself a contract for the next season.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I think it's going to ultimately come down to who gives him a multi-year deal. I could see Washington doing this before Toronto. Like I said, in Toronto, he might be a seventh, maybe eighth defenseman once Giordano and Liljegren's back. But with the Capitals, they have a couple of young guys on defense. I mean, Sandin's the biggest one. So you could bring this in, maybe look at Sandin and Beer as maybe the second pairing of the future. You want to get these guys locked up, see how they look together. This could be a situation. But I think it's going to come down to, like I said, the term, how much playing time he gets, and how much he values maybe going on a run for a cup as well. I mean, right now the Capitals aren't looking outstanding, so I can't see them being a cup favorite. When you do look at Toronto, they're obviously a cup favorite with the team they have. So Beer would have more of an opportunity for playoff success with Toronto. But like I said, every player wants money, and it comes down to the term and how much teams can give them.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens here. I know he is holding open skates right now so that teams can come in, see how he plays and stuff like that. But we'll keep you guys updated on what happens here around Ethan Bear. It'll be really interesting to see him in Toronto, like you said, with the winning culture. He does have a great shot to win there, but if he's looking for more of an opportunity, you might see him in Washington. It'll all come down to what him and his camp decide to go. But we'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening. But we're going to get into our second topic here, and that is Kuzmenko trade incoming. And we've seen multiple reports here, Mark, of Andrei Kuzmenko potentially getting traded here at the deadline or coming up very soon, just so that Vancouver can get and another guy to push towards their playoff push, because they're really looking like great contenders for the Stanley Cup right now. And we just take a look at Kuzmenko's stats. This is his second year in the league this year. Last year, in his first year, he at 26 years old. He's 27 right now. He put up 39 goals, 35 points for 35 assists, sorry, for 74 points. And so far this season, he's only has 4 goals, 11 assists for 15 points. And Mark, this is a guy I know your second team is the Vancouver Canucks. So this is a guy who has played phenomenal last year. He's having a little bit of a rough start here this season. But do you think you could see this guy pick up and eventually see him get traded?
I think this might be the sense. I mean, like I said earlier, they traded for Sadorov recently. This does push them really close to the cap ceiling. They also have Carson Soucy that's on LTIR. So that's another reason why I think they're out on Bear. Like I said, they brought Zadorov in. They still have Carson Soucy that's going to come back. But when you do look at Kuzmenko, he might be the odd man out. It seems like the coaching staff has lost a lot of trust in him. We've seen some healthy scratches, and he hasn't been anywhere near his how he performed last year, where he almost scored 40 goals in his first year when they brought him over from the KHL. So I could see him being a casualty of the cap. Maybe the Canucks look at him and say, hey, we can move on from him, free up cap space, maybe add a couple pieces here and there, bring Soucy back, still have a bit of wiggle room to work. But and another thing is, I think teams will take the chance on him after seeing the almost 40 goal season, the 75 points. So I don't think it's going to be too hard to trade him. But the biggest thing is the Canucks can't overpay to get rid of him or just undervalue him in a trade where maybe they send him off for a fifth, a sixth. I mean, we've seen Sam Lafferty get traded from Toronto to Vancouver for that value. So you don't want to move a Kuzmenko, guy that can score 40 goals, for that low of value. So I think it's just they're going to try to find the best trade possible. If it makes the most sense, I can definitely see Kuzmenko going. I can't see Garland going, so I think it's going to be Kuzmenko at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. The potential is definitely there. Like you said, he almost scored 40 goals his first year over from the KHL. So I feel like a lot of teams are going to be jumping on this if he hits the trade block for Vancouver. And one of these trades that we did see here is from the Nashville Predators. The Canucks would receive Tyson Barrie, a third-round pick, for Andrei Kuzmenko. And as we dive into Tyson Barrie here, obviously he's been a solid defender in the NHL his entire career, a league vet right now at 32 years of age. More of a two-way defenseman, I guess you would say, more of a defensive defender. So far this season, he has 10 assists for 10 points, and he has 24 blocks and 6 hits. And Mark, obviously, you know this guy really well. He was a former Toronto Maple Leaf. What do you think of this trade offer here, sending Kuzmenko to Nashville for Barrie in a third?
If I was the Canucks, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole. When you kind of look at this trade, like I said, you have your defense. Soucy's going to be back at some point soon. You traded for Sadorov. This will fill out all 3 pairings. So if you bring in a guy like Barrie, it's kind of an awkward situation of who sits when Soucy is back. I mean, Soucy was a huge part. Him and Myers looked better than they should have all season before the injury happened. So you'd almost have to look at maybe moving another defenseman if you wanted to bring Barrie in. I mean, with Barrie, you are getting a lot of offense. This guy's a power play specialist. He's going to come in and be able to quarterback. But do you really need this when you have a team with Hronek, Quinn Hughes? These guys are outstanding on the power play. So you would almost be bringing in a smaller Tyler Myers in the sense of he's going to have a lot of lapses. He can put up some points. Barrie would put up more points than Myers. But I can't see this making sense for the Canucks, but I could see Nashville definitely pulling this trade off. I mean, they're looking to shop Barrie. Barrie's camp wants him to move on to a new team. I just can't see this working for the Canucks at all.
Yeah, definitely. And where you just traded for a defenseman, too, I really don't think you bring in another defenseman at this point. Like you said, with Soucy coming back, now they got their new guy in, Zadorov, that a lot of teams were interested in. Really don't think you shake up the defensive pairings that much by bringing in a new guy at this point. I feel like if you're moving a forward like Kuzmenko at this point, you got to bring back another forward, another center, someone to kind of fill that role. And there's another trade here from Philadelphia who would send send Travis Konechny to Vancouver for a first, Andrei Kuzmenko, and Danila Klimovic. Mark, I know obviously Travis Konechny has been a great center here in the league. As we take a look at his stats here, 23 points through 27 games so far this season. He has had better years at the faceoff dot. Right now at only 28% on the faceoff, but usually around that 50% mark by the end of the season. But Mark, what do you think about Vancouver bringing in Travis Konechny to potentially fill that second line center role?
I mean, right now, I want Konechny on the Leafs. I want him on Vancouver. I think this is the perfect guy. You could slot him on the wing on JT Miller's line. You could put him with a guy like Pedersen. This is a gritty guy. He can score goals. He's going to do all the dirty things that Kuzmenko really does not do at all. Kuzmenko is a terrific scorer. He's a guy that can put up assists as well. We've seen it last year with 75 points. But the big reason he's getting benched is the lack of effort, no grittiness, not getting into corners. And this is what you get with a guy with Konechny. Konechny is younger, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I believe the contracts are exactly 5.5 for both of them. So I think if they wanted to move on from Kuzmenko to make Konechny a young ad, they can bring in a playoff guy. Not that he's been in the playoffs, but in a sense of he's a physical guy and he's not a big body, but it's just the grittiness, getting in the corners, fighting, everything that you need from a guy in the playoffs. Bring this in, put him on the line with Pedersen, JT Miller. I think this would be phenomenal for the Canucks. And I could see maybe Philadelphia doing this as well, where they bring in a guy like Kuzmenko that you can still use as trade bait. Maybe this is at deadline or in the offseason, next season at some point when he's on his last year of the deal. So overall, I think this does make sense. I know Philly fans love Konechny, so it's going to be hard to maybe pry him from them. But I think the Canucks would have to hop on this. I think they would 100% benefit from this, and I hope they get it done, honestly. And if not, I hope the Leafs get him.
Yeah, and we have seen reports from Philly, wanting to sell during trade deadline, and Konechny is, they're one of their top guys right now that they could potentially trade off for some young value and get some value back for him. And I really do think adding a guy like this to this Vancouver roster will push them over that hump, and really they'd be one of the top teams to come out of the West this year. I think they will be regardless. They've been playing phenomenal hockey, and when you add a great two-way forward like Travis Konechny to your roster, it's only going to help you. Like you said, he's a guy who gets in the corners. He's a guy who's not afraid to go in after a hit. He's great with his stick. He's great with stick lifts, and his poke checking ability is phenomenal. I really do think that this guy would be a great ad for Vancouver, and it could be, like you said, a great playoff guy. Like you said, even though he hasn't been there, but he is a great playoff guy, a guy you need on your team, and a guy who's just going to get the team fired up, whether it's with a hit, whether it's with a play in the corner. He's always going to be creating plays for his team. So I really hope that Vancouver can get this guy, because I really do think he'd be a great fit here on this second line, and I really hope that he can get in the playoffs for one of the first times in his career and just show what he's worth. I'll be really excited to see him there. Like you said, he's a fan favorite in Philly, and if he comes to Vancouver, I'm sure he's going to quickly become a fan favorite there as well. But we're going to get into everybody's favorite topic here, and that is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to our boy Pat G Mafia. He says, great show, KC and Mark. Been busy this week catching up on your videos. Shout out to you, Pat G. I really appreciate your comments, all your support. Day one supporter here on the channel. Really appreciate that you're still sticking around with us. I really appreciate it. Appreciate that. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to go down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers before Christmas, so give us an early Christmas gift. Go down below, hit that subscribe button. But if you enjoyed the NHL, make sure to check out this video that's popping up on your screen right now. While saying that, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Mark Pye. Keep your stick on the ice.